the demographic that's skewing the data that shows that women are increasingly progressives is actually the growing demographic of more educated, or basically middle to upper class women who are not getting married and not having children. And that is a ever-growing group, because the ONS data, I think we actually talked about this a couple of years ago when we last spoke, but the ONS data in the UK shows that an average woman now is not having the first child till over 30, and actually a quarter, of those women, half don't end up having children at all, or statistically that they're not having children. So that group is growing, and that's what's skewing the data. That's the demographic.
Yeah. And I think that there are things that progressive politics offers those women. Another being, so we talked about neuroticism, we talked about compassion and maternal instinct. Another factor is, I think there's a, I'm by no means the first to say this is cliche at this point, but there is a religious aspect to progressive politics. There's a whole theology that comes with it, which obviously does have some connection with Christianity, but then rejects Christianity in other ways. Maybe we can get into that.
Is it because they reject Christianity that it's turned into a theology? Like they need to have that spiritual dimension somehow.
Something to replace it. Yeah. Yes, I'm sure that's a massive part of it. I think that if we've learned anything from the new atheism movement, it's that people desperately need religion of some kind.
Yeah.
And yes, and progressive politics offers, I try and say progressive, by the way, rather than woke, because I think in general you should try and use the terminology that people will accept about themselves. Yeah, and woke is so pejorative.
It used to be the word they used, but no longer.
I know, and that is actually interesting in itself, that it so quickly became pejorative. Normally when a word very quickly becomes pejorative, it's because it's actually describing something that's very unpopular. Mm-hmm. And there's a kind of democratic mechanism within the use of language that people will end up using language as they want to, and then the meaning of the words change. So yes, if you're constantly trying to play catch up, trying to stop the description for your ideology becoming pejorative, probably says something more about the ideology than anything else. But anyway, progressive politics does offer these religious, it offers a sense of meaning. It offers a sense of history having a clear shape, there being a clear story about why we are where we are and where we're going. It offers a sense of community, showing up to protests or whatever it is, and a sense of collective identity. It also offers enemies, which are very satisfying to the human mind, to have a clear opponent. Donald Trump does a fantastic job of that. He's a very richly symbolic figure. I think that obviously men and women both have that desperate desire for meaning and for something like religion in their lives. But I think that there are one of the things that we know about particularly younger women is that they tend to be the most mimetic demographic. So the most attentive to social forces around them.
And why would it be why would they have evolved for that to be a useful trait?
Interesting question. I'm not sure there's a clear answer to that, except that one of the things that women, going back to Joyce Benenson's idea of women being specialised in child protection, one of the things that you need in order to protect your child from danger in the ancestral environment, and still, because we have unusually vulnerable babies compared with other species, is allies. You need other women primarily to help you with the day-to-day care of your children. You need to have a community of other women in order to successfully protect your children. And so building coalitions with other women and being popular, basically, within your community is actually life or death. It's really important. And I think that's why young women in particular, so women who just embarked on adulthood, would in the ancestral environment be having their first child and have suddenly entered this world of vulnerability where they're made vulnerable by their childbearing and they have this child or children to look after. They have this desperate craving, and it's a completely legitimate one, to be popular, to be part of the group, to have allies, particularly female allies, to be so socially completely secure. Mm-hmm. And one way that you can do that is by being very attentive to social cues around you. So one of the things that's interesting about teenage girls, for instance, is they're often the earliest adopters of slang. And a lot of slang comes from them because they have this genius for social attunement. And that includes picking up on language that people are using and any other kind of trend. Again, it's not a bad trait. It's not bad to be mimetic, and there's an obvious evolutionary reason for it. And also, I don't think any of us would actually want to live in a world entirely full of like contrarian podcasts. Right? It is actually good for people to have a level of pro-social like clubbishness and wanting to get on with people, not wanting to rock the boat all the time. That's actually fine. Like that's there ought to be some healthy variation within the population. But it does mean that there's a vulnerability to, if a bad meme enters play, there's a tendency for it to whip round. And young women in particular are really intolerant of dissent in their peer groups.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it comes from the same place, doesn't it? The wanting to have complete trust in this group, and someone who is voicing her dissent, that can be interpreted as you're not to be trusted.
Couldn't you argue that it's more useful for the group evolutionary that dissenters speak up and that the group listen to them, because they might actually have information that will help protect the group further from, the vultures at the gate?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I guess there needs to be some balance there, because yes, if someone's voicing a very, very important point about some danger in your environment or whatever, then you don't want to be immediately jumping on them. And yet we do see so much intolerance so consistently.
Yeah. You've written that cancel culture is women culture.
Yeah. It's high school girl culture, isn't it? And I think it's important to emphasize this youth factor, because I think you do see, you can see this in research, but you can also see it anecdotally, that when women get older, they're less into that high school girl behavior. It's very strongly associated with youth. But and again, it doesn't.
Why would they grow out of it?
Maybe.
I mean, I can see why they grow out of it once they become married.
Yes, and they get deradicalized. But maybe in the ancestral environment, it's just you're more vulnerable at that age. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it does seem to be quite a consistent phenomenon, which is why, it's probably why you've seen, when it comes to transgenderism, why the women who've been most vocal in speaking out about it have been older women generally. And you might say that's because of the era that they grew up in. Maybe they have different political ideas that were inculcated in them than the younger generation. Or it might just be that this is one difference between young women and older women. That young women are more mimetic, less tolerant of dissent, more vulnerable to that kind of political wave just sweeping through, and older women less so. Unless
the older woman is divorced.
Well, yes. I don't know what divorced women think about transgenderism. That's an interesting point. They tend not to like Donald Trump, though, so maybe there's a relationship there.
Thanks for watching this clip from The Winston Marshall Show. You can click here to watch the full episode, and for more clips like this one, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, be well.